Hey friends, today on Gardening with Creekside, we are going to focus on one of the most iconic shrubs of the South. Yes, we're going to be talking about azaleas. Azaleas are just a beautiful shrub. I think if you are if you grew up in the South, I can almost guarantee that there is a picture somewhere in your childhood of you standing in front of a beautiful blooming azalea right around Easter time and decked out in your finest Easter wear. Of course, we love azaleas because of their massive, huge flowers, right? Just these pillows of white and pink and purples and all sorts of gorgeous colors. The only downside with those azaleas is that historically they were for more shady conditions and they only bloomed that one time of year. Well, we want shrubs that give us much more performance and versatility than those azaleas of yesteryear. So today we're really going to be focusing on the Perfecto Mundo series of reblooming azaleas from proven winners. We have personally grown these plants both in our gardens and as a grower to sell to our customers. These are fantastic shrubs that bloom 3 times a year. So I really want to go into depth about these reblooming azaleas, how you can implement them into your garden, and how you can take care of them so that you get the most bang for your buck, right? So we want plants that really perform in our gardens. One thing right out of the gate that you may not even know or understand is that these whole series of azaleas were bred by Dr. Tom Rainey here in North Carolina at North Carolina State University. So if you're worried about can these handle our southern conditions, absolutely. I mean, like they were born and bred here in the state of North Carolina. Proven Winners partnered with Dr. Rainey and has brought these beautiful shrubs to the market. I did say they are reblooming. That means they're going to bloom 3 times a year. Of course, they will bloom in the springtime, right? That is their prime season for azaleas. That's when we think about azaleas blooming. Right when we are ushering in spring, typically around Easter, they seem to be blooming around that time. That is when you're going to have your first flush of blooms. And actually, when you look closely at the ones that we have here, you can already see those flower buds have already begun to form. So they are going to be covered in blooms. Then they will bloom again in the summer, and then of course all the way nice through the fall. Gorgeous color. The Perfecto Mundo, they come in all kind of shapes and colors. So you have like double white, you have pinks, you have reds, you have purples, and they come in a range of colors, all the way from like 1 foot tall to 3 to 4 feet tall. And before I get too far into this video, I know a lot of you like to take notes and to get information. At the end of the video, I'm going to have screenshots that you're going to be able to take or pause the video and take notes on all 9 different varieties within the Perfecto Mundo series. So if you just want to kind of stop taking notes and then do that at the end, if you see one that you like, just know that I'm going to have lots of pictures and graphics for you at the end of the video. But they are, like I said, anywhere from 1 foot tall to 3 to 4 feet tall. Now, what do you need to do to ensure that they really perform well in your garden? First of all, they're going to be anywhere from part sun to full sun. So what does that mean? It means that they need to have a minimum of 4 hours of good direct sunlight. You can have anywhere at the absolute least from 4 hours all the way up to full sun. But you're like, Jenny, you know, I really have full sun conditions and I'm in a warm climate. Can these handle it? Yes, they can. Proven Winners trials these in the full open sun in Florida. So if it can handle the Florida sun, it can probably handle your sun. Zones 6B to 9 is the hardiness zones on these plants. So those are your sun conditions. Then maintenance wise, these bloom on both old growth and new growth. You certainly do not want to come in right now and go to town and prune on this azalea. If you do, guess what happens to all those little flower buds that I told you were popping out? They're gone. So you're going to take away that beautiful spring flush of flowers. Now, does that mean that you can't prune it? No, absolutely not. In fact, Proven Winners encourages you to do a little bit of pruning. So let it bloom in the spring. It's beautiful. We love it. The blooms are done. At that point, you just go through and do a very light trim, right? Ladies, when you need a haircut, but you don't need a major haircut, you just get your tips done, right? So that's what I want you to do to the plant. Just go in and take the tips off. When you do that, you are encouraging new growth. This plant blooms on old growth and new growth. So when you trim it just ever so slightly, or if it needs a bigger prune, to do it right after it flowers, that's fine. You're encouraging that new growth, which means you're going to have more beautiful blooms that second time around and then into fall. So that's your maintenance on it. If you need to prune it, do it immediately after it flowers in the spring. And even if you don't need to prune it, go ahead and give it a very light little trim. All right, so we've got pruning taken care of. We've got sun taken care of. Fertilizer. What kind of food does this need, and do I need to fertilize it? When your plants need food, right? Just like we humans, our animals, our pets that we love, they need food. Plants need food too. It is best that you use a great rose fertilizer on your azaleas. And I know that sounds kind of strange, but you can use because the azaleas and roses have the same nutritional needs. They are woody shrubs with flowers on them. So you can use rose tone on it would be a great thing. If you don't have rose tone, go ahead and use holly tone because they are acid loving plants. So either one of those, if you don't have any of that, plant tone is also great too. One of those is better than nothing. But you want to go ahead and fertilize it in late winter going into early spring, right before it flushes out. Go ahead and do that. When you notice your temperature is starting to get a little bit more consistently warm, go ahead and fertilize it then. And then when you do your light pruning, go ahead and fertilize it one more time. So that's going to be probably about a month or so, 6 weeks between those two fertilizers, could be 8 weeks between those two sets of fertilizers. That's going to give you lots of new growth, good root development. You're going into the growing season. That's when we want to fertilize our plants, going into the growing season. Nice, beautiful new growth. And after you prune it, then that new growth, of course, is going to equal gorgeous flowers. Water needs. What kind of water does this need? Really, it's pretty average. Azaleas, as you know, there are azaleas at my mom's house that are older than I am. Once you get an azalea established, they're very happy. Same thing with the Perfecto Mundos. Of course, that first year is the most critical to make sure that it's getting adequate water. If all of a sudden here in the South, you know how it is, it's like all or nothing. You get tons of rain and then there's like no rain and high temperatures for a long period of time. At that point, you're going to need to supplement the water. So don't let it get too terribly dry during the summer, the heat of the summer. If it's on irrigation, great. Now, does this need tons of water? It does not. It just needs just enough water to get those roots established. Once it's established, then you should be good to go. So not a very fussy plant whatsoever. How are you going to use these in your garden? Well, that's the beautiful thing about the Perfecto Mundo series, is that they tend to be a little bit more on the more manageable, smaller size. Again, my mama's azaleas, they are taller than I am. They are massive. Now in the spring when they're blooming, it is an absolute sight to be seen. They are stunning. But a lot of people don't have that room for their azaleas to grow, and it's just not very, manageable because they're just massive. So the Perfectos, the pink carpet is going to be your smallest one. I planted some in the berm in the fall. Cannot wait to see them bloom, but they're gonna be nice and short, only like a foot tall, and then they're a little bit wider, just as their name suggests. Pink carpet, low and wide, covered in beautiful, soft, baby doll pink blooms on it. Then you can work your way up. Most of them are going to be somewhere in that 3 to 4 foot tall and wide range. Will make gorgeous foundation plantings. Like you can put them up against your house. You can incorporate them with something like a big pop of color. So if you wanted to even pair it like with a boxwood, you could pair it with a boxwood. If you wanted to do something bright and the chartreuse color, that would be a great option too as well. So lots of options for you on the size of them. And then one of the newest series that has popped up within the Perfecto Mundo series are the Perfecto Mundo Epics. And there's Epic Pink and there's Epic Coral. Again, our folks at Spring Meadows sent me a couple of those that I could put into the berm. Really excited about those because the Epic series really brings out the biggest flowers within the Perfecto Mundo series. So nice, huge flowers, of course, a coral and a pink color, really nice, intense color on it, and will still bloom those 3 times a year. So lots of fun interest with these Perfecto Mundos. But I really encourage you, if you are in those zones of 6B to 9, that go ahead and be looking for these in your local garden center in early spring. That way you can get them really into the garden and get them established before the heat of the summer hits. In North Carolina, we are blessed with an extremely long growing period, right? We can basically plant practically year round. Our ground never freezes where we are. This time of year really is kind of the coldest time of the year. And so maybe if you want to take a couple of weeks off, a month off, maybe now's the time. But going into late February, that is where our weather begins to turn. March is wonderful. 1st of April is wonderful. And even into the summer is great. It's just going to require a little bit more attention on you to make sure that they get what they need. When you're visiting your local garden center early this spring, really make sure that you pay attention for these Perfecto Mundos. If you will remember, we did a video on my top 10 shrubs for the South. The Perfecto Mundo series, I couldn't just pick one. I had to pick the whole series. These are just really great plants for our warmer zones, that's 6B to 9, typically the South, right? So when you're in your local garden center, be looking for those so that way you can get them in your garden, get them really well established before the heat of the summer hits. Great, gorgeous shrubs that are going to give you years and years of beautiful flowers in your garden and bring lots of interest. Hope you found this video fun, helpful, informative. Stay tuned because I have all that information for you here in just a minute. As always, thanks for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a fantastic day and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.